Welcome back to the course LTE System Overview. Now we will cover the disadvantages of OFDM. The first disadvantage of OFDM is its vulnerability to frequency offsets. As soon as we have a very slight frequency offset in the system, we lose the orthogonality between the subcarriers. As soon as we lose the orthogonality, the signals are not so easy to divert. This means that we get a higher signal-to-noise ratio. We have to transmit the data with a lower modulation encoding scheme and with higher redundancy. Therefore, we have to use a very good frequency synchronization when we use OFDM. A second disadvantage of OFDM is the so-called high peak-to-average power ratio that can make problems for some amplifiers. Why do we have a high peak-to-average power ratio? This we can see here when we think about the high amount of subcarriers that are aligned in time. When we have a symbol, a certain symbol transmitted in subcarrier 1, then it's not a problem. We will always have the same peak-to-average ratio. As soon as we transmit a very similar symbol at the same time point, we already have to double the power. The average is still the same. And if we then think about a third symbol in the same time, then we have to transmit 3 times the power. This means that the peak power is very much higher than the average power. And we are talking in an LTE cell of 1,200 subcarriers. So you can already think about that this peak power ratio might be very high. Peak to average power ratio should be as low as possible for most of the amplifiers that are sold today. This means that we need very good hardware to maintain this in our system. So, if we summarize the advantages and the disadvantages of OFDM, we see that it is completely resistant to multipath interference by our cyclic prefix. We have a higher spectral efficiency for wideband channels. We can use our spectrum very flexible, and we have a relatively simple implementation by the inverse fast Fourier transformation and the fast Fourier transformation, but this is very hard to calculate, so we needed some hardware for this. The disadvantages are listed here. We have the problem with the frequency offset. We have the problem with the peak-to-average power ratio. And we need the frequency and time synchronization. So also the Doppler shift, for example, might lead to a frequency offset, and this has to be covered. So far for advantages and disadvantages of OFDM. Thank you for watching.